Hey booktube, more like bucktube, am I right? Boom! My name's Buck, this is Buck's Books. Today the Buck's book that I have for you is called The Parasitic Mind, How Infectious Ideas Are Killing Common Sense. So could go a couple of ways right out the gate. Unfortunately, it went the way that it sounded like it was gonna go. The hardest thing about it is that I didn't disagree with anything that the guy said. The author's name is Sad, and that is apt. He was talking about how cancel culture is largely a power grab for people who couldn't accrue it otherwise, and that is something that is reflected also in a much better book that I cannot recommend you read because it was written by the Unabomber. But if you were interested in industrial society and its future, he talks about the power process pretty extensively, and that's kind of what Sad was grasping at, but blindly and ineffectively. Despite the fact that I agree with most of what he's saying about how there's this increased level of hypersensitivity and it's kind of damaging our ability to communicate openly, especially with regard to new ideas, because new ideas are getting stomped down if they don't conform to a specific mold right out the gate, you know? And that censorship, yes, it protects people, but it also limits what we are able to extend to and imagine. And it's ironic because it's in the name of progress, but it's functionally halting progress because we have such a reduced level of functionality now. So that's as far as I'm going to go to agree with this guy, but he's just so unbearably supercilious that I couldn't finish the book, and that's unusual for me. I mean, there are some real stinkers that I abandon if they don't have my interest by a quarter of the way through, but there was just no getting through this. I mean, you guys remember when I reviewed Mythago Woods, and that was bad, but I made it through. This could not. No way. It's like reading a right-wing comment section, but instead of angry 20-year-old virgins, it's like a single boomer academic. And big chunks of the book are just Sad quoting his own tweets and then describing in blistering technicolor his cutting retorts to people who would challenge these tweets. And then he would talk about how everybody on the internet stood up and clapped. And if that sounds absolutely pathetic, you have to believe me when I say that my straw man is actually less cringe-inducing than the source material. And our man also quotes private emails with anonymous colleagues who he then calls out for being anonymous and refusing to join him in the ranks, take a stand against the rising PC tide because they would get passed over for tenure and they'd probably lose their jobs. And I mean, he's also going to go and take the usual pot shots against Antifa and LGBTQ with a pronounced emphasis on T, and all those crazy feminists, all of whom he insists are too sensitive and impeding the march of progress. So it's sort of like when your uncle in the Dale Earnhardt shirt finishes his fourth Bud Light and announces to the Thanksgiving table, you know what? I'm just going to say it. Again, grain of salt. He's a boomer. He's from Beirut. There are levels of culture that we have to take into consideration here. But what is most unfortunate is, despite the fact that he is, some would say, overeducated, he believes he is the last remaining voice for what is right, which makes him a zealot, and a trite zealot. It is a profoundly bad book. I understand what he was trying to do with it, and it's probably a conversation we should be having, but Gad Sad should not be in the room where that conversation is happening. They should have stopped him at the door. But now you don't have to read it, because I did, for you. And that's all I have to say about that. Thanks for sticking around. Tune in. I'll probably have another one up later this week. Eventually I'm going to get started on reviewing all of the books related to Our Boy Between Two Fires, like I promised I would. But it holds such a special place in my heart that I haven't gotten around to it yet. This is something that I do with the book reviews too. If I really like a book, I'll take forever to review it because I want to do it justice, and then I'll forget what I liked about it so much, and then I'll just get to the place on Goodreads where I review, and I'll be like, So I'm gonna try not to do that. Don't worry, I'll get there. I'll see you soon. Take care of yourself.